Welcome, everybody. Sorry about the late start. We had a little bit of a problem, but don't worry, I'll still finish on time, so you can go have some lunch. I'm Jaime Rodriguez. I'm actually a developer evangelist from Redmond, so I work for Microsoft. I've been there forever. And during my day job, I actually spend all my time working with publishers for mobile games, bringing them to Windows. I work for publishers like King or Zynga or Disney, making sure that when they bring their games to Windows, they actually succeed. So this presentation, the one that we're going to cover today, is actually very close to my heart because we spent all of our time helping them succeed in Windows, talking about the store and how to get the most out of Windows Store. So we're going to, it's going to align really well with what we do. For context, if you've been here for the last day, you've been hearing about Windows, you've been hearing about universal platforms, which is the platform that we use to target to write one game and be able to target, either IoT or HoloLens or Windows Phone or PC tablet or even console. And you're going to hear about how we do the store that targets all of these, or that will soon target all of these platforms as we go forward. So I can't cover everything here, but I want to make sure I can look at it here and say, from today, we're going to just kind of look at 4 different stages of how you plan your application, how you make sure your application succeeds. We're first going to talk about how you plan to monetize your app, whether you want to use ads or in-app purchases or something else. Then I'm going to talk about what you do when you publish your app, what are the things that you can take advantage from within our store. Then I'm going to talk about areas where you can engage users on Windows. We have some unique ways to engage users. And then we're going to talk about experimenting and kind of growing and iterating based on what we have on the platform. So kind of just looking at all different stages, I'm going to take you through the journey, and you're only going to hear a few details from some areas. For example, I'm not going to get deep into how to sign up for the program or anything like that. I'm just going to introduce you to some of these things. For context, how many of you have published a game to a store like iOS or Android? Okay, a few of you. And how many of you have written a Win32 game or any other kind of game? Okay. I'll give you that because this will help me put it into the context of other stores. So our Windows Store is just another store. If you're familiar with iOS or Android, we're very similar. First of all, we have a membership. So when you sign up to the store, you actually you have to sign up to the store. We validate you. You set up a payment account and everything else. There's a small fee there. It's only $19, and it's a lifetime fee. So if you sign up once, you never have to pay for it again. And then, that's the basics of joining the program. When you're going to publish your application, you have to certify, very much like you have to do with iOS or Android. So very different from when you, publish your game or you release your game from your website. So we do have a certification process, and then we also have a 70-30 split. What that means is if something gets sold on our store for, say, 99 cents, you get 70 cents and Microsoft gets 30 cents. This is standard for all stores, so you should be fine. It should be familiar for you if you've used any of the other stores again. Now, what do you get back for in return for participating in our program and in participating in our store? Well, you get lots of discovery. As you heard yesterday and today, there's 300 million users that come to our store all the time. They're looking for games, looking for apps, and then they'll be able to file your game and install it from your app. So you get discovery, you get licensing, you get distribution, right? You don't have to worry about people downloading the game from your website. They can download it from our store. You get payment instruments, right? You don't have to take people's credit cards. People already have credit cards on our store. So you get a lot in exchange for being in the store. And again, it's mostly about the global reach and that discovery feature that we're after. That's why people join our store all the time. So if you're going to sign up, there's a few things we have that are pretty unique compared to, again, other stores. If you look at our store, we have multi-user accounts. So that means you can actually create one account for your organization, and many different people can use it. If you have many different games, people can actually have different parts of the game that they manage, which is pretty unique, or it's actually different from some other stores. So we let you make sure that you actually have different accounts with different roles and responsibilities across. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. The other thing that we have that's pretty unique is that from within a store, you get one developer account, and there you manage everything. You manage your Windows Phone permissions, you manage your Windows Phone releases, you manage your PC releases, you actually manage your Xbox releases very soon. So it's one store where you aggregate all of our universal targets as we have. So those are the two things that are different from within our dev center compared to everybody else's. Now, how are you going to make money? The business models behind it. It's a store. It's a digital store. So we have the canonical business models that everybody else has, right? You can make your game free. You can, make your game download to own, which means they pay, and then they download your game. They license your game. You can have in-app purchases, and that's, consumable, durables, everything that you would expect. You can decide that you're going to do ads, or you can have subscriptions. Subscription is a feature that's coming this summer. Throughout the presentation today, you might see little asterisks next to the features that I talk about. When you see an asterisk, that just means it's a feature that's coming this summer with what we call the Windows 10 anniversary release, which is going to be live in a couple months. So these are what you would expect from any digital store. Any digital store today has free DTO, in-app purchase, and all that. Now, Microsoft Store is unique in that we have actually converged all the features from our Xbox Store too. So we have a few more features that are very interesting to game developers. Most of these are coming, so you'll see some of these in the summer, and a few other ones you'll see earlier next year. But one of the things that we have that's pretty unique is bundles. So the ability for somebody to say, maybe this person needs to own a whole series of my games, or maybe this person needs to own, different games from me, and therefore I'm going to give them a discount because they can have they own a bundle. We'll also introduce sales this summer, just so the ability to say, my user is going to have, or I'm going to have a sale. I actually can go in there and set a specific price for a specific, range of days or for a specific timeline, and not have to worry about changing my prices all, over and over, and having to manage all those things. So sales make easier for you to manage those things. We're bringing DLC, very much like you get in console, where you can actually maybe make a purchase and download new levels for your games. We will have support for that this summer. That one's coming pretty quick. We're also adding the ability to do pre-order, very much like on console. This is very much a console feature. You can pre-order your game, participate on the beta, get incentives for you to actually pay early for the game, and get the game earlier while you're actually enjoying the license after the game is published too. So the ability to pre-order is very interesting, and again, it's one of those features that's coming from console, and we're bringing into our digital store, which is going to make it into mobile, of course, and into PC. And then the last one that we have is conditional pricing. And conditional pricing is something where you can say, well, if this combination of things happen, go ahead and give them a specific deal. For example, if somebody owns a bundle, maybe they get 10% discount on all your in-app purchases. Or if somebody owns, one specific game, maybe they can get a discount on a different feature of the game. Or if somebody's purchased a level, they get a discount on, some sort of booster that you have for a different level, so they can move on to the next level or something like that. So conditional pricing makes it easy for you to dynamically target your users and give them optimizations with regards to what they pay. So that's pretty unique for a digital store. Another thing that we have that's different from other stores is trials, right? Trials gives you the ability for a user to try your game before they pay for it. And this is a best practice that I actually don't see used as much in our store as I think it should be, because trials is just a way for you. If you write a game that's for PC and you require specific hardware, or you require a specific, or it's a specific genre of a game, you can actually just make it a trial, have the user download it, try it for a few hours, or try it for just a specific number of features, and then they can decide to pay for the game or not. With trials, it's a pretty easy way for you to actually safely let somebody try the game without giving you a bad review because they might not have the right hardware or they might not like it, and still be able to pay for your game. We see much higher engagement with trials than we see with people who don't offer trials. In the digital store, most people want to pay 99 cents for a game. If you have a PC game and you want to pay something like $3.99 or $4.99, it's okay. And people that like your game are going to pay for it, no problem. People pay, for example, for Minecraft, they pay $10 or $6.99 in their stores. But for that, you want to give them the ability to try it so that if they spend $10, they're not upset of you if you didn't like your game. So trials is one of those best practices that our store has that you should take advantage of if you're actually targeting our store. If you choose to monetize through ads, we have a lot of offers for ads. We have, from a Microsoft standpoint, you can use our ad system. We have, Microsoft ads in the system, and through our ads, we give you ads mediation. So we give you the ability to actually just mediate ads where you sign up for Microsoft, you're dealing with one ad control, and then we're actually going in there and mediating third-party ads for you, such that if somebody doesn't have inventory or somebody's paying high for a specific target of users, you can actually take advantage of that without having to write any custom code or any special logic for it. We also have two different ads that are unique to Microsoft or that are not as common in other platforms. Affiliate ads, that's where you actually, we would show an ad for something that Microsoft sells, and you would get paid a commission for it if the user converted. So you can say, hey, I want to show Microsoft ads or affiliate ads, and if somebody clicks on that ad and goes buy something from our store, you would actually get paid, a commission or a small percentage of that sale. And then we also have this thing called community ads, which are free ads that you exchange with the community. You can use these for them to promote your game or for you to promote their game. And it's one of those things where with mediation, when you don't have good fill rates, this is a good way for people to actually take advantage of having that ad space and actually helping each other out. And of course, if you want to use third-party ads, you can. So for example, Bungle is pretty popular for video ads in games. We have Smato, we have ad duplexes, and there's always more ad networks coming to the platform as we go. So once you pick you picked how you're going to monetize, whether it's going to be in-app purchase or ads or whatever, the next thing that you do with regards to our, for the flow for our journey is you decide, hey, I'm going to submit my app to the store. And there, the one thing that I want to give you is, some advice on making sure you have a really good, what we call product definition page, right? Having really great assets, making sure that your assets are localized. This is how you're going to get your app discovered in our store. So making sure that you have a good title and description, making sure that you have all the screens and the logos. We make it, in the Microsoft Store, we make it pretty easy for you to decide, oh, I want to have these screenshots, and here's the different languages I want to use. And we make it very easy for you to not have to localize all of your images and languages, but we do recommend that you do that because it's a best practice. If people come and they can read the description in their language, they tend to install a lot more. So we want to make sure you have that. The next thing that we want to make sure you have is kind of a good reputation, right? Make sure you're constantly looking at feedback. Make sure you're actually creating new apps, not just submitting the same app over and over, so that users actually rank your app, rate it, and people actually, let it self-rank and come to the top as a best app that people want to install and trust, as often or whenever they want to install something. So if before you release you want to test your app, we give you the ability to do betas. In Microsoft, we call those package flighting. And what that is we give you the ability to submit a package that either a specific number of users will use, or a package that you would actually roll out at a specific country and make available for a specific audience. We give you the ability to enter the name of the users or the Microsoft account, the email addresses of the users that you want to be a part of your beta. We also give you the ability to kind of gradually roll out to specific, either a flight, which is a specific group, or just to roll out gradually throughout your community. So you can actually come in and say, hey, I want to start my, I want to do a submission, and I want to beta test it with this set of users. And then after that, I'm going to gradually roll it out to like, a small percentage of my users, such that you make sure that your updates are always safe and never break anybody. While you're submitting, we also give you the ability to tailor your hardware. So, throughout our platform, because we're universal, you can write a game that's mobile, a game that runs on PC, a game that requires touch, and all sorts of things. So when you submit your game, we do give you the ability to say, oh, I want to, potentially my game requires maybe a sensor or NFC. Or in some cases, with some more advanced games, with some of the AAA games that we're looking at, in the near future, we're going to go back and say, oh, my game requires that I have, a DirectX 12 card, or that I have, 4 gigabytes of RAM, or something else in the system that requires something more advanced than, most people would have on most systems. So our advice to you is that, first of all, be as broad as possible. So write a game that plays really well with mouse and touch and everything else, so that you don't have to require something. That said, we also recommend that you do tailor your hardware. If you have made a decision to write a game that requires touch, make sure you come and you tell it in the app. And then when the users go to the store, if the users don't meet your requirements, they're going to automatically be told, hey, you cannot install this app, and that way you don't end up with a bad rating from a user who installed the app and couldn't run it. So we give you the ability to tailor your hardware. And that's it with regards to pre-submitting, right? So you made your decision on how you're going to monetize, you made the decision, and then you've created a really great product definition page, you tailor your hardware, you've submitted to the app, so now you got to figure out how to engage your users. And the first thing that you do, that we give you, is the ability to promote your games. So our store gives you promo codes. Promo codes are where you go to our dev center and you fill in this little form. And then from there you say, hey, I want to order promotional codes that you're going to get a string that then you can email to reviewers, right? People that write magazines, or people in the Twitter community, or whoever. You can email them a promo code, and that way they can download your game for free. They wouldn't have to pay for it, and they can try it out, and then maybe they can write a review or tell their friends about it or anything like that. So we give you the ability to do promotion codes. And the other thing that we do is we give you the ability to, buy ads, kind of like promote your app. We call this feature promote your app in our store. So from within our store, when you submit, we give you the ability to promote your app. And it doesn't mean that you have to spend money. You can, if you want, you can say, hey, Microsoft, I just launched my game. I would like you to promote it to users. And that way, when you launch your game in the first 2 weeks, you start getting downloads and you start building viral momentum, and you start, building your rankings, and that way you'll be promoted more throughout the stores. You can pay to do that, or you can actually just say, no, I would like for the community ads and the house ads to do that for me. And in that case, Microsoft will do that for you. We'll do it. We'll do it by you exchanging ads with other folks, where you can use community ads and they'll promote you. Or you can use you do it through in-house ads. And with these ads, you have all the ability to configure exactly who you want to target. For example, you can go in there and say, I want my ads to only show up on a specific region, or I want my ads to only show up to a specific audience, like a specific age group or something like that. So we give you detailed targeting that you can do. And we can also do that all for you. So if you just go in there and say, hey, Microsoft, I want you to promote my app, and I want you to take care of who, Microsoft is going to look at all sorts. So we have machine learning and analytics from all of our users, and we can go back and say, well, he has a match 3 game. This user right here in the past has installed many match 3 games and played them. So let's go ahead and show them that ad. So we take advantage of the data that we have, and we look at things like, hey, when was the last time, or how often does this user install apps? What kind of apps do they install? What are the times that they installed? All sorts of details that actually make it much more efficient for us to make sure that we present better ads than you would. So for the most part, if you wanted to promote your apps, I recommend you let auto-target. You give it a shot at least for the first 2 or 3 days, and monitor how you think we're doing, because we feel that we have a lot of the machine learning data and a lot of the user acquisition data that's going to make sure that we have less of a drop-off with regards to the number of users that see your ad and actually click on it. So we think our ads are actually more efficient than if you target on your own. If you don't want to promote or if you promoted your app and users have installed your app, the next thing you have to look at is how you engage with your users. And one of the features that is very common to Windows and pretty unique with regards to to other platforms is live tiles. So if you look at any Windows, we always have these tiles, like the tiles are right here, these little icons that we use for our apps, and they're actually live. Right? So they're actually interactive. They do a lot more than, say, iOS badges. And they're always there, and they're always there for you to be able to connect with users. We have them both for Windows, and we have it for Windows Phone. So this is an area where you can actually very quickly and very consistently engage your users. I've done these exercises with many, many publishers, and every time we write tiles, we see sometimes we see different engagement numbers. So for example, somebody will add live tiles to their game, and their engagement would increase by 10% or 20%, sometimes even up to 30%. The range varies depending on the game, the range varies depending on the publisher, but the one thing that I can tell you is that live tiles consistently have proven to me that they boost user engagement. They do drive more user engagement if you engage them through your live tiles. The live tiles give you very flexible layouts. They're all adaptive and responsive, meaning you actually have the ability to make sure you tailor them for different platforms. For example, in this screenshot right here, this is the same live tile that has an adaptive layout. And you actually just send a tile with different groups, and then we figure out what is the best one to show for you, for your user. So if the user has a small tile for you or a large tile, we show them how much, the platform decides how much information to show them, and you always get the best use of the tile. And tiles are super efficient because they're not spammy, right? If you have a phone and you play the game and the game starts sending you push notifications every week that says, come back, you haven't played the game, you pretty quickly get annoyed by that and think, after the second or third time that they've shown you the notification, you start thinking, oh, this game is just spamming me, I'm going to turn notifications off. With live tiles, it's actually not spammy. People can actually see the tile, get your message, but they don't have to be annoyed. They don't have to be interrupted as much. So you can actually use these, and it's a good way for you to actually take advantage of surface area, take advantage of engaging your users without having to do any work, without having to spend any money. Of course, if you want to do something more actionable for, say, a sale that is more time sensitive and you want to make sure the user sees it, we also give you notifications. So very much with Windows Phone, we have Action Center, very much like Android or iOS have one already. We give you interactive notifications and actionable notifications, so you can do that. And last year, we brought those onto Windows. So our Windows platform, if you're running Windows 10, you will see that we have an Action Center, and we have the ability to do the exact same notifications. In fact, in the Windows platform, when a user has your game and they have it installed in multiple devices, like, for example, push, for example, phone and PC, if from within your game, from within your server, you send a notification, we make sure that we reach the user on one of the channels, and we don't spam them where we show the same ad twice if we know, or the same notification twice if we know it's the same user. So notifications is a good way to engage them if you have something more time sensitive. And one of the things that we're doing is we're bringing all of the flexibility that we added to live tiles onto the Windows platform this summer. So for example, if you want to have interactive notifications, those have been there since last year, but we're adding something like adaptive toasts and notifications, and we're also adding groups and subgroups so that your notification can actually do, for example, here, I have a group, and if the user actually collapsed this, they would actually see just maybe half of this forecast. They would see only the top that has today, like Monday's forecast, instead of seeing the whole week. So we're making sure that we add more flexibility such that you can deliver messages that are more value and engage your users a little bit more through our notification center. So again, that's another area where you can use it to engage users on the platform. Another new feature that we're adding to the platform is the ability to do experiments. So if you're if you're any game, or most game developers today, all of them do A/B testing, but they do it on their own. They actually have to create a web, create a backend, create a web service that they can actually send the data and then actually, retrieve data for them to be able to do any A/B testing. And in some cases, this requires that you submit to the application store twice and you do other things. And in our platform, what we're doing is we're giving you the ability to do your own A/B testing without having to resubmit by using our backend. So we actually give you the ability to say, from within the Dev Center, control an A/B test. You can actually go in there and control the variables that you have for your test, control what percentage of your users are actually seeing a test, and actually go back and forth and iterate as you're actually discovering the data. All of this from within our Dev Center without you having to write your own backend, without you having to write anything extra or without you having to stand up any servers. How does that work for our side? It's pretty simple. We give you an SDK that actually you just reference from your app. This is C# references, but the SDK would work for any language. If you have a C++ game, you will use the same SDK, and it will work fine for C++. And then you go into a Dev Center, and they say, hey, I'm going to create an A/B test. Like maybe decide what feature I'm going to show, like whether I show a vertical ad or a horizontal ad. You can actually just go into the Dev Center and say, I want to create a new experiment, define the variables that you want to use for that experiment, and then from within the SDK, from within your code, you just go in there and say, hey, call into the Dev Center and say, hey, what features should I, or what should I do here? For this experiment, should I do the vertical ad, the horizontal ad, or whatever? You get the variable to do that, and then you show the ad. And then if you want to log the event that has the metadata that says, hey, we showed the vertical ad and the user clicked on it, you log that event onto our Dev Center, not onto your web services. You don't have to stand up a web service. And then on the Dev Center, you can come in, look at the data, analyze it, and then say, you know what? It looks like the vertical ad is working better than the horizontal ad, so just start showing the vertical ad to everybody. So you control from the Dev Center without having to republish. You can actually control what percentage of your population gets an A/B test, and then you can decide that when to stop the A/B test and when to actually move it to become a feature. So that's something brand new that we have on the feature that we think is pretty unique. Taking A/B test to the next level, we actually give you, within the platform, we give you this feature called segmentation. And this is from within our Dev Center, you will actually be able to build your own segments or your own cohorts so that you can go in and say, okay, what if I wanted to target all females or all people from a specific country? Or what if I wanted to target people that have, made a purchase in the platform? These are my users. They might not have made a purchase in my application, in my game, but I know that I spend money in other games, so these are people that spend money. So from within the system, we're actually going to create system segments. Like, for example, we can say, here's a segment for whales. These are people that spend a lot of money on games. They might not have spent money on yours, but you can actually see that they're part of that segment and actually target them from within your game. The only requirement is they do have to have signed, or they do have to have played your game once, but once they played your game, then become part of that segment, and you can start profiling them and actually contacting them. So we give you the ability to segment. We give you system segments. The ability for you to create your own segments is coming this summer. It's not there today, but it's coming this summer, so you can create your own segments and kind of line them up based on maybe whether they completed a tutorial or maybe how often they're playing or whatever. And you can merge those segments with us when you do targeting. And then we give you the ability to target those users. How we give you the ability to target those users today is through push notifications. So you would actually, have your segments. You come to our Dev Center and say, hey, I want to run a sale for all the whales in my system. And there's a segment for all the whales, the people that are spending a lot of money. And you create a notification, and then you send them from within our server without you having to do any work. You send them that notification, and then that user would be able to they'll get the notification. They'll be able to see your sale and run the sale, and you didn't have to do any work. You didn't stand up your own server, and you had access to system-wide segments in order for you to target your users. So it makes the targeting and the segmenting very efficient. How you do it is exactly the same than we did the same for A/B testing, right? You add a reference to our store SDK. then you actually register a channel so that you can communicate with that user. This is one call that you make onto our backend to say, hey, this user is now part of this segment. That's how we add them to the segment as they go. And then when you go to a dev center, you just go in there and pick a segment, and you create your notifications, and you target them. Right now, for today, you're only getting push notifications. In the future, we're going to give you an API where if you wanted to, from your game, from your backend, you could actually say, hey, I might want to show an offer to this user. Can you tell me if they're part of a segment? And you would actually be able to, programmatically use the REST API to call and find out if they're in a segment. Today, you don't have the REST API yet, but that will be coming later in the year so that you can actually give them offers without having to use push notifications. Next thing that you have to do if you're looking, so you just looked at how you engage in your users. The other things that if you're engaging your users, one of the best practices that you should do is, make sure that you're prompting them to review. Our Dev Center gives you the ability for users to rate and review your game. We give you the ability from within your game to prompt, send them to our store so they can rate and review. Rate and review is great because it's going to actually build your reputation. Right? So with rate and review, you actually look at the things that, or you actually prompting the users that are having fun with your game to review it, and that way your rankings will go up because you have more reviews and the reviews are higher. So that's the best practice that you should always be doing within your game, and it's something that we give you from within the system. The Dev Center supports all of that for you. One of the things that we do is the ability for you to actually, from the reviews, to actually communicate back to the users and give them answers. So, so that's worked out great in that, in the past, people would actually go in there and maybe rank, give you a 1-star and say, oh, the game is crashing, but you couldn't contact them. Or a user would actually come and give you a 1-star and said, oh, this game is missing a feature. And the feature would be there, they just wouldn't know how to discover it. So if you can respond to those reviews, you can actually make sure that your users are hearing about the things that they're missing and hearing about features that are coming or fixes that have been released, and that way they're actually, they have higher confidence on how to engage with your game. So, so we want to make sure that we give you a great way to communicate back and forth through reviews. And one of the things that we do is we also filter for the flights. So if you're running a beta and somebody rates you on the beta, we want to make sure that that review doesn't get mixed with your reviews from when your game has been published. So we make sure we filter the flights such that if users review your game in a flight, in a beta, they don't actually get that as part of, or that review doesn't get mixed with your actual reviews for once your game has released, so that you don't get a mix of reviews that are bad because people were running your beta. We're also taking rates and reviews to the next level because rates and reviews was a good way. Most people, if you wait for rates and reviews, pretty much what you're going to get are people that hate your game, people that, or people that love your game, right? Because if your game is crashing, your game is going to get, the user might get frustrated enough where they go to the rate and review and they give you a 1-star and they tell you it's crashing. And that's the worst thing that you want, right? You don't want users to actually have to rate you in order to give you the feedback. So one of the things that we're adding as a new feature to the platform is the ability for you to prompt the user for feedback, right? So we're going to give you a whole feedback system where from within your app, you can give the option to the users to say, hey, do you want to submit feedback? Now, feedback is different from a rating. Like imagine that you write your game and you notice in your game that the game crashes, 2 or 3 times in a person's PC. Maybe you want to say, hey, we noticed the game crashed. Do you want to give us feedback? Tell us what you're doing or what kind of hardware you're running such that we can figure out why it's crashing. And you want to do that outside of the review system because if you ask them to rate your app, because they're crashing a lot, they're probably going to go and give you a 1-star rating, which is the opposite of what you want. So with custom feedback, we give you the ability for you within your app, whether it's in settings or you can prompt the user or whatever, you can say, hey, do you want to give us feedback? And if the user says, yes, I want to send feedback, then we give them a website that they can kind of submit feedback. Public website, it's implemented all by Microsoft. You don't have to write any of this functionality, and the user will go somewhere they feel comfortable. They can enter a little bit of information. They can give you feedback. And again, this is not hurting you on your reviews, right? So the user can actually submit feedback, and then from within that system, you'll go in there and you have the ability to look at all the feedback, the ability to filter, the ability to monitor all of that, and also the ability to respond to that user, right? So within that feedback, you can comment back on it and say, you can respond publicly. Or you can actually respond by sending an email to the user if the user allowed for that to happen. And then if something is broken and you fix it, you can mark it as fixed or implement it. And that way you don't have to worry about, or that way you can let everybody know that the release has gone out. And people who are reading your feedback can actually see the things that are coming, the features that are coming. So this is a really great way for you to actually engage more with your users, keep them happy without hurting your reviews. Right? If you manage feedback right and you manage reviews right, you can actually kind of very quickly steal your users such that you always get great reviews, and then you're still capturing the good feedback from the users that are having trouble without necessarily having them hurt you on your reviews. So, so feedback is brand new, and it's something that we're pretty excited about engaging users. The last thing that you should obviously always be looking out for is obviously the analytics behind your users. You want to know who's installing your users. You want to know how many of they're active, how many are spending money, all of the analytics. So very much like every other digital store, we have analytics that we continuously improve, that we're constantly adding new filters and new types of information for you to make sure that you can actually do, get all the information that you need. One of the things that we added recently is the ability for you to get analytics through an API. So if you have a backend, if you have logic on your server where you want to actually acquire analytics and see how many users are playing, how many users have made purchases in the last hour, and that way you can optimize. We do have now an API that you can go back and query the analytics, bring them onto your server and analyze them, and maybe make new offers and maybe iterate on experiments based on what you're seeing there. So you can very quickly, near real-time performance or near real-time monitor your performance and actually track what you're doing. And then the last thing that we're adding, which is brand new, is we're adding extensions to our analytics. So, you can go into our server and look at our analytics, and a lot of people, what they were doing is they were exporting the data, taking it somewhere else, and maybe looking at it through some other higher level analytic package so they could get better visualizations or anything like that. And what we're doing for our dev center is we're actually adding extensions such that if you want to, for example, do Power BI and get great visualizations on our analytics, you can do that. You can just say, oh, I'm going to add an extension here and then get better visualizations on the analytics, and the data still remains on our dev center where you don't have to pay to host it or actually pay to access it and all that. So we give you that as part of our analytics. That's it for what I wanted to cover today with regards to how you can monetize, make money from our users on our store. Here's kind of a high-level summary of some of the features that we talked about. Most of these I talked about a little bit, so you should see there's the only one that I didn't cover a lot was the APIs, where we give you API for submissions, we give you API for you to retrieve payouts too. And then we will continue to add more APIs so you can, from within your server, in an automated way, access our dev portal and get all the information that you need. So from our standpoint, we're pretty excited that our store has matured a lot. We feel that this year we finally have a store that has converged phone, and PC, and we're bringing all the Xbox features like subscriptions, like DLCs, like bundles, and so we feel that from a gaming standpoint, we're going to have a really great store this year where we have more features than most other digital stores do. So on that side, we're pretty excited about it. And the last thing that we have, which is my call to action for today, is we have a Dev Center Insider program. So we have the ability where you can go in as if you're a Dev Center registered person on our platform. You can actually just say, hey, I want to sign up for your Insider program, which is how you get betas and access, and you can give us feedback. So for example, if we're adding new features like the segmentation API I talked about, that feature is going to be rolled out in the next couple months. And if you join our Insider program, we're going to contact you first and say, hey, we have this brand new API coming out. If you want to try it, we can give you access from your Dev Center account, and that way you can get to try these out. So it's a really great way for you to keep in track of the features that are coming. coming. It's a really great way for you to give us feedback so we can improve it and make it better, make our whole dev center and our whole store experience better for you, and you can make more money out of your users. And that's it for me. Thank you very much for listening in. If you have any questions, feel free to come up. And if you have any other questions, feel free to also drop me an email. My email's here, or you can reach out to me on Twitter and GitHub and say, hey, you talked about this. I have a question. I would like to understand more about it. So thank you very much again. Yep.